testicles so much I can't even stand it sometimes. Whoa! Ew! Ew! What is this? What?
She's not wearing anything.
There's a popsicle.
And she's in the front.
She's not.
And everyone...
Mom, why do we have this?
The photographic composition is really what the artist was trying to get at here.
I get that with the American Pride, you know, GQ and everything. It's great.
They got all three colors, red, white, and blue, in this one.
They did, and the breasts, those are also a good part of it.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
What do you even?
The door was unlocked.
Leave.
Yeah.
No.
No. Oh, wait.
Why do we even? I ask myself this every day, so. Stephanie? Yes, princess? I mean, are we wrong? You mean about completely rejecting the GQ cover of Kate Upton with the triangles and precariously placed popsicle?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we think it's totally unacceptable, but, I mean, is that necessarily true for everyone in our society?
Why are you doing this on a Friday?
Humor me, Parker, alright? I mean, to what extent is promiscuous advertising acceptable?
To the internet. Alright. Okay. Alright. Look, hi!
Hi there! Hi there!
Whoa!
So you want to know what the deal is with Kate Upton's GQ cover and just promiscuous advertising in society in general, yeah?
This is perfect! This is... What?
Well, you're in luck. We'll have a kind of answer for you in 20 minutes or less.
Okay.
Well, first, let's define what acceptable is. Alright, we can assume being acceptable means that something is well received or tolerated by a particular demographic or a group of people. As you may have already experienced, while you may not personally find something to be acceptable, other individuals may have a very different opinion. But if disparities in opinion on acceptability occur, then how does something such as sexy advertising suddenly become tolerated by a society to where it is present in everywhere? Well, we can consider that this would fall into majority rules. I mean, companies need to sell their product to the majority since the most sales lie with the largest demographic. So in order to sell to this large consumer base, their goal is to appeal to as many people as possible. But what's necessary to achieve this goal of drawing in the consumer? Obviously, companies want to persuade their main demographic to purchase the product. But another tactic can be simply to have all the demographics know the name of their product. Elaborate on that last concept, Steph. Well, if you say so. Let's take a look at this hairy man in a Speedo, who has nothing to do with the product that's being sold. The image is so provocative, however, that it's remembered by those who may not want the product or may not even be able to buy the product. In this way, those individuals who fall within the demographic, who think that drinking whiskey in a Speedo sounds like a fun time, are directly appealed to. But the greater demographic of those who don't feel that it's a great way to slowly die remember the ad and the product itself, which makes it more likely that they'll recognize and purchase the product in the future. So, if you can't appeal to everyone, then just stun everyone. I guess this is where the age-old concept of sex sells comes from. But the question arises here is, why does sex sell? It sort of ties into your remark about stunning everyone. Sex, sexual references, sexual images, and sexual situations have long since been taboo in our modern-day society for centuries. Say sex one more time. Sex. Alright. Right then. But, I mean, you're totally right. Modern civilization and man's innovation past the loincloth has made sex a touchy, very private subject. So, when it's mentioned or brought up in conversation or seen on a coffee table in a modest Southern Californian household, it's sure to perk some eyes and ears. It may not please all audiences, but it will certainly garner some attention for whatever it's associated with, such as brand names and products, and thus its appeal for advertising.
Well, have you ever heard that the controversial art is the art that's remembered?
No, but it feels painfully relevant to this discussion.
Give me a beat. No, just cut it. Just cut it. Artists, well, most artists, want their work and message to be as well known as possible.
Mm-hmm.
In order to have people notice their pieces, they have to draw significant attention, and the best way to do that is to challenge people's sense of comfort. However, in this game of brinksmanship to see how far they can be pushed before they entice anger from their audience, there's a line that has to be kept in check if they want to be as effective as possible in engaging attention.
So, I mean, like, shock is good, but completely petrifying onlookers is detrimental to the artist's original purpose of spreading their name. Which is why those Carl's Jr.'s ads, you know, the girl on the mechanical bull eating the burger, dripping down, those ones, you don't see those on TV anymore. And I mean, that's probably because there was so much public outcry caused by the provocative image that the company's reputation actually began to suffer and they lost sales.
But, you know, I saw a Carl's Jr. ad the other day, and it was actually pretty funny.
Huh.
It's like, she has the fish sandwich, and the girl's, like, sitting there, and she's eating the sandwich, and then the guy comes in at the end. And you know what? Just watch. Just.
Oh. Yeah, that's hysterical.
It is! It's funny because it's exactly what I expected for Carl's Jr. commercials. It was overtly sexual, but the twist at the end threw me off. I was surprised by the ending, while the sexual aspect of it did not really come as a shock to me because I've been conditioned to it. The humor at the end was not anticipated.
Okay, well, there's still a mostly naked chick groping a turkey burger on a beach, so I really don't think that's necessary. I mean, there are a million different ways that they could have gone about advertising a turkey burger, okay? I mean, making people uncomfortable just, it doesn't make sense. It's not a good way to sell a burger.
But the ad served its purpose, didn't it? How hungry are you for a turger?
Seriously right now? Not at all, alright? I'm just more in tune with my inner conservative mom. And let me just say, I am very disappointed with Carl's Jr.'s decisions. I might call their parent company. Alright, like 1 million moms already did. They staged a huge protest the last time Carl's Jr. had commercials out like this, and they're starting up again for that one specifically. Alright, there's obviously a lot of people out there who just are completely offended by this type of unnecessary crudity.
Well, are they just letting their emotions get in the way of logically deciphering this ethical issue?
You did your emotions get in the way of your ethical
Stop.
issue?
Just listen. The whole discussion is whether sexy ads like this or Kate Upton's cover is right or wrong. You and 1 million moms are blocked by your immediate emotional response that this is risky and inappropriate because you were raised in a culture that shames this kind of exposure and makes people feel embarrassed or uncomfortable.
Well, how am I not supposed to let my emotions take part in my analysis of this ethical issue? Intuitively, I feel that this is wrong, and I understand that it may be because of how I was raised, but, I mean, still, I feel like parading a girl around in a bathing suit on camera to sell a burger is wrong.
Exactly, it's just how you said it. It's how you were raised.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have the same intuition if you were raised, say, in a different culture where promiscuous advertising was a cultural norm?
Well, I mean, of course not. If I was born... Hey, Stephanie.
Yeah, Shelby?
Did you hear about that thing in France?
The bread.
No, the magazine covers.
Oh, you mean Kanye and Kim's racy cover on L'Official O?
Yeah, that's the one.
I just happen to have it printed out right here. Hold this while I discuss knowledge issues, please.
Yes, master.
As much rabble as this knowledge of this has been made in the UK and US interweb, internet pages and blogs, in France not a lot of people are batting an eye. It would seem that the French culture is a lot more tolerant to this sort of media display.
But why is that, Steph? I mean, how is it that one culture, such as the French, are so much more accepting of provocative advertising, but other cultures, such as Middle Eastern countries, are so very against it?
Well, that makes it a difficult consideration since there are so many factors that contribute to various cultures and make each one unique. Religion, tradition, art, social movements, and norms have defined each culture on this planet to what it is today. How certain cultures became more accepting of sexual themes is just the result of how their culture developed over time. It could completely change in 10 or 15 years. However, where each culture stands on sexual themes is just where they stand at the moment, and has to be considered by companies and advertisers in order to best communicate their message or product.
So, with the official nudie cover, it's not so much of a scandal in France because we can assume sexual advertisements there are more acceptable. Probably because France has been a long-time center for artistic expression and has seen every kind of avant-garde artistic venture in the book. But, I mean, does that apply to an American commercial in an American society? I mean, we have our own society and customs that need to be taken into consideration. I mean, is it really fair for us to hold our society to the standards of another?
You're right. I mean, we can't really put one culture's perspective above another's. Oh, yes, exactly. It's ethnocentric bias. Feeling that your culture or customs are just more justified than another's simply on the basis that it's your culture.
This makes the issue pretty subjective then, since we can't assume the acceptability of other cultures towards promiscuous advertising from our American perspective. Shall we limit the scope of the investigation to American acceptability of Kate Upton's and other sexy ads?
Yeah, that'll keep us from losing our audience.
Hey, hey. Are you still there?
Yes,
Okay.
right, I'm here.
Well, since we know that each culture will have its own limitations on what they consider to be racy or provocative advertising, let's look at reactions from where this cover was debuted.
So obviously you and 1 million moms have made it very clear that there's certainly a demographic that isn't thrilled with the suggestiveness of advertisements, and especially Kate's cover.
Well, I mean, personally, though I know I don't stand alone here, I think that it's degrading. Like, in an article on an online sports magazine, this reporter was going on about Kate's cover shoot and how during shooting her bathing suit top malfunctioned. And he says, oh, she was embarrassed and she laughed it off, but he kept going on about it like a 10-year-old boy. It really rubbed me the wrong way. It just shows that there's this maturity that's lost when advertisers appeal to the lowest, most primitive form of desire in their advertising.
Well, really then, explain this.
Oh, that's totally different.
How so? They're both suggestive in that they use promiscuity to shamelessly attract masses like flies to a dead carcass that you consider capitalism.
Steph, just breathe. Alright, I've got this. Just sip this one out. Great. Stephanie brings up a really good point. Each of these ads has a sexual theme and uses that sexuality to sell. But let's take a look at this one, alright? This ad doesn't make me want to single-handedly take up the women's rights movement again, alright? While the ad depicts a man and a woman in a very close situation with no clothing in sight, there is a maturity to this photograph that makes that promiscuity acceptable.
Let me see. I see what you mean. Kate's cover is the same theme, but the manner of which it is presented is much more playful. While the Gucci ad is serious and sophisticated, this appeals to a more juvenile, in-your-face, teasing sense of sexuality.
I'll call it juvenile. So, okay, knowledge question alert. Is it the perception of the artistic representation of these photos that denotes its acceptability? Again, both have sexually promiscuous themes, but one yells it at you from across the grocery store aisle, while one whispers it to you from across your dentist's office. So, obviously, that could be thanks to the lighting and the framing in each photograph.
Huh?
Okay, alright. Is it the perceived level of promiscuity portrayed by each image that makes it acceptable? So essentially, is the way the promiscuous theme is portrayed in each photo what makes it acceptable or unacceptable?
Oh, okay, I see what you mean now.
Thank you.
Because the cover of Kate Upton is so forwardly sexual, it's more appalling. When you look at the cover, two things catch your eye. Your focus goes to, well, her bathing suit top, her scantily clad chest, and the popsicle in her mouth, for an obvious allusion to
advertising. But exactly. Each of these images is viewed in a completely different perspective, And the Gucci ad is more acceptable because the sexuality of the photo is, well, understated. It's less in your face.
Well, and that perception of whether this sexuality is in your face, all depends on the individual's tolerance of sexual themes.
That's right. Varying degrees of conservatism in different individuals gives each person their own definition and limit on what is considered acceptable when it comes to these sexual images portrayed in advertising.
Boys and girls are a perfect example.
Oh God, are they?
A lot of males seem to have a higher tolerance, that is, they get less offended by sexually explicit images.
Well, that probably stems from the male desire to procreate. And, I mean, with an image like Kate's, with her baby feeders out and welcoming, it's no surprise that men are so attractive to that kind of cover.
Well, then does that make most women respond so negatively? In any case, the first thoughts towards the cover from a woman's perspective would be 1. Concern for this outcry for male attention, 2. How cute her bathing suit top is, and 3. What makes her attractive enough to be in a cover like this, and how can I attain this look? There's still the possibility that women have such a negative response to this and don't want to accept it because there's a factor of intimidation.
I mean, well, this is all getting pretty innate. That may very well be why those feelings of rejection towards sexual advertising have surfaced as advertising has gotten more and more attention-grabbing. But there's also the idea that these innate feelings have sort of shamed the outward expression of sexuality in certain cultures like ours.
But, okay, what if the tables were turned? What if Adam Levine, shirtless on the cover of GQ, was a thing? I mean, it's still sexual, but would that be more acceptable because it isn't a woman being paraded on glossy material magazine paper? I mean, I feel like men would be equally taken aback to see a man on the cover of a magazine mostly nude. Like this picture.
Oh, I'm gonna try to be impartial with that.
As we all.
Right, so it's obvious that each of these pictures it's geared towards a certain demographic, men or women. And it would also seem natural that for whatever reason the demographic not targeted by the advertisement is unaffected or even offended by the promiscuous exploitation of their sex.
But then again, is it true for every individual in a society? Each society may have its established norms that can be blanketed across the society as a whole, but each individual in that society has their own level of tolerance for the promiscuous material.
And this variation is what keeps promiscuous advertising a viable marketing method, since even if there's a percentage of the population that doesn't accept it, there will always be that demographic whom this method of product promotion is effective.
Does this mean then that promiscuous advertising is acceptable? Well, as it is an extension of capitalism, as companies need to sell their products, it can be acceptable with limitations, of course.
Obviously, gender and culture play a huge role in limiting the acceptability of promiscuous advertising. As an advertiser, should you choose to use promiscuous methods to promote your product, there will always be opposition from the excluded demographics. Even still, opposition can raise attention to a product, resulting in a form of any press is good press.
Looking back to Kate Upton's cover photo, it succeeded in its purpose of attracting positive male attention to the magazine, but also became the source of malice from women who were offended by GQ's unsophisticated exposure of Kate. However, both gave notability to the magazine for a short while.
As long as there's an effectively targeted audience for promiscuous advertising, it will always be considered acceptable by that demographic. However, the limitation arises, or the line is crossed, when even the targeted demographic says that it's too much.
So basically, the key to acceptability is to always have an audience. You don't want to be that guy at a party who drops a huge, massive, dirty joke and just no one laughs.
Yeah, alright, that's when you know that you've gone too far.
Well, that was eye-opening. Well, I mean, I guess now we know that promiscuous advertising is acceptable because there will always be that demographic that accept it. It's Friday, Stephanie, I'm tired.
I know, it's okay. I mean, but I guess we do have to tolerate it just because there's so many people who do accept it. I mean, in our society, we got those guys who, they accept it, so I mean, I guess it is acceptable.
Yeah.
Well, that's one knowledge question for today. I think we are done.
Yes.
Excellent. Do you want to play Wii?
Always.